Hello, we're just waiting for Rinpoche to come, so please be patient. Hi, Priscilla.
Good morning.
Morning.
It's so nice to hear you and see you.
Yeah, nice to hear you. You can turn your video if you like. Uh, oh, hello. Oh, it's dark. It's blurred, but that's okay. Glad you can come and join us. Oh, here you are. Hi, Priscilla. Good
There
to
I
see you.
am. Hi.
Here you are. Hi. Here, I'll show you the rest of the room here. Everybody say hi to Priscilla. Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Priscilla.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you.
Yeah, and Rinpoche should be coming in any minute, I think. Okay.
I'm going to stop the video.
Sure.
I
Okay.
just I have to put the laptop down and then you'll just be looking at my ceiling. So
Sure.
that won't
Okay.
be very
No problem.
maybe more
Well, good,
interesting than looking at me.
good to see you. We'll enjoy the teaching.
Thank you.
And so we'll start with a little bit of prayer to invite the teaching and that proper motivation. And I'll screen share this. Okay, so we're doing these with a version that has a little melody or chant to them. So you can learn these gradually, or if you want, there are recordings of these online so that you can just go and practice if you want. I can send you the link to where this are. But these were from the Shravasti Abbey, a Tibetan Buddhist monastery for training or training monastery in Washington State, and the people there developed these tunes. So we'll start with the mandala offering. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strewn Mount Meru, for land, sun, and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered to you. May your beings enjoy this pure, venerable holy group. In the space of your true body, from billowing clouds of your wisdom and love, let forth the rain of the profound and extensive Dharma in whatever form is suitable for subduing sentient beings. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami.
多年一结束的这边老姐姐是在旁边真正和上那边忙真正叫做做那种人的人，我一定要和这边的娃娃的原子老的那么的我对对为是也会，让这世界上我上在老老姐姐为这边老早就懂我的标子这边，这里叫做的小众边边，我在老米上老不上。兰州所罗门老大约没别上到我这边中国这这边中原他别在我现在是你老老归家，妹妹这边这这这这这这边这边红包这边样子我毛领这边上月的，还是给别世界中国网络上这边上那个。那边虽然我的这边老的上三界问题，天天忙问题这里上界的。跟着我的老样子，这里这里这我这里到了这个门我的身里，把到这个小路多，老着我别拿我做主，上街就到这里就忙了，看着我的那人都是。那也天天去别说那街，到了并且上街就过。不说的却当作的什么？我想尽管的大年两日去，当一天天天别做梦。除了春天上天这个手风的，这当作的让让让，我想尽管的当的小子。那些天天天别做梦给，除了春天上天这个手。哇塞！morning good morning。안에 따라서 혼자다가 지금 나출 장질로 가서 주고요.
So Rinpoche is asking for most of the people, how many years has it been since you've been studying Buddhism? Oh, so anyone can answer this.
about um oh, 7 years, 7 years. Yeah. New. New.
Not Tibetan, just the past year.
Okay.
Maybe 8 from
Oh,
Kensher Wanda Rinpoche in Middletown. Yeah.
How many months is it?
What's that? August?
Yeah.
9
months?
Oh.
7 years.
Oh.
Just a
Yeah,
couple
Wanda.
years.
왜? 또 지방 가서들이로 다 출제다 맞지 세저로 또 가서 달래나 아주 미 삼로 나로라 아 재원이었다 가서 직 리되고요 직선 되고요 안 되로 다 리되고요 한데 시 튼제 촌 지도고요 나 삼로 되고요 하세요 출제나 마도 나 삼로 되고 소투 맞다 기다.
So when we talk about the kind of practice of Dharma, just in general, and whether there's practice of, whether this is practicing Dharma or not, doing Dharma or not, we start by thinking about how there are two different hopes that we humans have. And those hopes are for our body to be well and happy physically, and then happy mentally. And so for the body to be well, to have physical well-being, that depends on different external conditions and the external world. And then for the mind to be well and have mental happiness, that depends on our way of thinking, our thought processes. And so this is what we are saying when we talk about practicing Dharma.
일단 난 생기 디제세디 용어라다 최세디 종거다 딜라 말한 좀 전부인 디톤을 차샤고 있는다 이슈 같이 남바 인도 쟁 그 줄로 망불 종거로
And talking about achieving this peace and happiness, mental happiness internally, through Dharma, there are many different types of Dharma or religions. So there's Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, Hinduism, etc.
그래서 줄로 참아 땅을 이랑 제고야 돼봐 줄로 간다도 아니 즉 우메스야를 펜토요 봐
So all religions are worthy of us having some reverence and just a type of kind of appreciation. So yeah, they're all worthy of appreciation, and because they bring benefit, they all bring benefit.
뭔데 단단 남백이 이 단다 추추디 다 먼저 나 삼로기 나로라 가루여레스라는다 유모세지요 유모세디 전다판 가르레라비 아니 로몽보고 세바 로 맞제바 신이데 유모세 다 유모세디 메버소야라 대바지부 디기도라나 대바지부 디기도 다 유모세디 메버소야라 싫어 시럽들 가르도 쓰려면 다음에부터 시럽을 써야 다 뢰기를 위바 약체시다 아주
So when we talk about internally, what this mental happiness, what's inside our minds, well, the thing that causes us to be unhappy, that makes us unhappy, is the mental afflictions. And what does it mean to say, what are these mental afflictions? Well, again, those are the aspects of our mind which we have to change because they bring us unhappiness or they make us unhappy, and they're in the nature of they have a quality of delusion, the kind of delusionary quality. And so to get rid of those and change our minds, then merely using faith or having faith is not sufficient. Instead, we actually need to develop wisdom and insight. So that means understanding things like selflessness and training the mind to increase the power of our wisdom.
계산다 시럽세디 가수이직 그 컴퓨터 땅투버이나 안티술 동네디 용도 대제 마음도 원스 가르라면 먼저 대제 마용해야 돼 아니 먼저 마시 몸베 마리 그 왕기 안 먼저 대제 두투고요 말했어 다텔라 아니 직냐 대제들라 다고 남 한번 출루 토는 시야에나 아니 사직이 되어다 삼미기 되어서 망고여로 계단 저 최소의 가르려면 진짜 실업 공부에 가지고 땅 투고 있네 뒤쪽에 아니 먼저 생기 대제의 망다 아니 대제 투를 해서 대제 투를 했어
So however much we're able to increase our wisdom or intelligence, we can say, then to that degree, then our suffering will decrease. And that's again because what causes us to be unhappy are these afflictions rooted in an ignorance that is delusional or you'd say just like obscured ignorance, and that's what causes us to be unhappy. So there are many different kinds of happiness, and using Buddhist terminology, we talk about contaminated happiness as well as uncontaminated happiness. But for all of those, then they will increase. We'll get more happiness if we increase our wisdom.
그래서 다 이제 성장 먼저 다 말아서 대화 두고요 눈에 두고요 말이에요 자 대화 되어라 대위 주둑세 동네 문제가 있는데 동네 위주 뽕바 제거해. 먼저 동네 두고야 말이지 동네 위주래야. 주방 동네 위주 제대로 있나? 안고 동네 레디. 제가 먼저 동네 문제가 나신게 동네 위주 동네 딱 용사기 자와도 가르도 탑시제 때문에서. 내가 누구요? 제가 내가 누구요? 그래서 내위 좀 거야 돼 나한테 연계해서는도 답당선은 되겠다. 이 내가 누구라? 나 소소기 로그니가 뭐 공패했다. 로그니가 같이 제대다. 어떻게 털었지?
And what we want is happiness. We don't want suffering. So if we want happiness, then we must create the causes of happiness. And since we don't want suffering, then we must remove or uh, do away with those causes of suffering. So we need to make an effort to look and see what are the kind of root conditions or causes from which our suffering comes, and making an effort then to abandon or remove those. So we really can say creating the causes of happiness. We can look at it two ways. We could say it's our a responsibility we have to create the causes of happiness, but it's also our birthright. We can create the causes of happiness. We have that ability.
나도 들어 비슷하지 면도서 가게 차들라로 망쳐서 그치 망치 신동 더우면서 제부 사이 생에도 차들라 디제세 칼을 보내도 갈래지 못하고 아주 신도 있어야 있는 신도 뭐 갈래 잡지 않니 제부 신에 싸워 그래서 가르쳐서 제부 사이 갈래 되는 생에서 차도
Mm. So in the 21st century, the way of a common way of thinking throughout society is that we want to be able to eat the fruit without cultivating the tree. So we want to, without really putting much effort in, we just want a good result or fruit.
제가 그때부터 또 농구시 강의 튜브야 강의 제하려면 당 아주 제단 돼야기 되게도 맡아보세요. 대한 걸 말씀하세요. 또 세대 아니 배 강의 망고시 거라신 체험을 제단 아주 강의는 동네제도 뭐.
So we want to achieve happiness, but there's happiness that we want we generally don't get, and instead we face many different problems. And this is really just the nature of life. It's naturally we get all these different problems. So then we need to think of how to get rid of those problems.
이건 어디 대학교 가서 보면 대제 두고로 대제 두야라 담이 쇼쇼 토안에 대제 두야 직선 당고래 안 다시 신연당 벤주가 토안에 대제 두고야 다 신연당 벤주가 토안에 대제 템부 야고게요 말다 추가 토안에 집두 토바이나 안기 템부도 야고 차고요 당가서 상문나 여러 당가 신연 직장 아니 막 벤주 야고 시작 좋지 다시 가서부터 답답 권해 토안에 직선 당고요 디나는 좀 최소디 쭉 돈이 대집주가 되니까 최들이 수서 가르치는 데 바로
When we think about creating happiness, then some people naturally think about doing it through some dharma or religious practice. Then other people think about through gaining better education through education. And some people think about just through economic means to create happiness. And the problem with those two methods, just studying a lot of increasing your education or increasing your economic standing, is that those the happinesses that come from those are not stable or lasting, whereas the happiness that comes through dharma is uh, is going to be stable. So that's when we talk about creating happiness, why dharma is kind of the main creator, the main thing that we can use to create happiness. Because no matter how much we study just increasing our knowledge and how much we, accumulate for our economic situation, then the happiness that from that it won't be stable. And then and all religions can help us to create stable happiness.
all the dana the ring the cha sawarina or something is your now. And sounds and in the batang to not in the pay. And to see the big ocean to the say. All right.
So today with our class year, Losang Dunya, as the interpreter, me requested the Rinpoche to please come and to teach for us, and then everybody here, but in their made effort to come, they took time out and to come here. So Rinpoche is very pleased, and thank you.
Lana Nango Go dance in it, change my chance of town to land to pay. This on that chance of town to land and pay was something near can't shoot at the Maran to say Yabujina. You Yabujina. This is the sugar. The Lalan does get to me.
So everybody really came from their own will or voluntarily, and it's not like people were somehow coerced into coming or tricked or anything, but people come here want to come, and it's because you want to live a good life, you want to have a good life, and so that's kind of what Rinpoche is trying to help us be able to achieve a good life, and then in line with that, then it's really helpful if people can put some practice, do some practice of what we're discussing.
Kalana Langa in our son. Rana nivel to the Lalan in nature son. That's not true said judgment. Given the nature to pay me judgment. Dog. I need to pay Mongwe. Lobson say, Lobson say, Mongwe, Rangi, Nivality, and the message they did the damage to solve over. To some that, Dinala Lalian Karine, so Union Lalian again, Joanna, and Pingy years of Rangi Nivality, Lalian natures. Jidan Tama Jan, Tama Shiver Kitchen. Inia, and Susu Mitsidam, Susugi, you come the temperature. And keep Lalindly game, Betix General, and those strawberry, China Pingrace all.
And in the Lam Rim, it says that one should practice according to or in line with one's own capacity. So there's so many different parts of Buddhism. It's really quite a vast tradition and full of different practices. There's practices within the sutra teachings, within the tantra teachings, so many different genres of text, so much to study and learn. But what the Lam Rim says is it's the most important thing is to practice what you're able to. So even if when you're studying the Lam Rim, if there's just a little, if there's a little bit that you're able to practice, that's the best thing for you to practice, whatever you're able to.
생감생이 뒷배 세배 개침으로 당당을 네가 치료도 셈도 봐. 네가 침부서 겸. 셈 셈부 유sem이시나니 네가 치료도 셈이자. 일단 아주 셈듯이 소주게 맞잖아. 빼면서 그게. 셈 소주게라. 근데 나도 디나라 마치 셈 양비진 봤어. 아니 지当学堂协会呢，俺那这老中的是忙不了的，生上头是吧？老中的是别忙过的。现在听说讨论俺就上木当空白天，本来军就当，老中你没有设了设备，对忙不了的，老中是吧？你在这个时候了，俺这一套你一个，老家有什么的忙不了？现在老家有什么的？忙不送过呀？当家全部用过，发生生命的话是的，他们的配了。
So the way that we're studying and learning about Buddhism needs to be done in correlation and connection to psychology and understanding of psychology in our minds and the state of our minds, because we really, when we look at it, can see that the mind is has the most power. It's the most powerful thing in the world. It's not the body, not the physical things. It's our mind. So that's why it's most important to be able to uh, change or transform our minds. So there are many different parts or stages of training the mind. And here in the text, the uh, kind of the phrasing used is like it says, and it's like training the mind in the stages, right? So these are all meant trainings of the mind. And there are many different texts that talk about, there's so many different things that we can study that talk about different ways of training the mind. There's the Bodhicharyavatara, Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. And then there's a text called the Mind Training, like the Rays of the Sun, and many others that we can study, but they're all talking about the stages of going through training the mind.
그런데 먼저 생각하면 배우는데 상계 요래서 여러 번 비슷한 상계 먼저 위주로 상계 위주로 니가요 상계의 니가요 인도 아니 상계의 니가기 온데 배워 제가 상계의 니가요 인도 먼저 단다 심타면 배워 심이한테 쉬부터 봐 대상 이 계시는 집이 다 강리 되었어야 할 지비지 동지비 납자스비 자체로서 shum세 되죠. 그래서 지비 배타였어야 돼. 먼저 미와요랬어. 그래서 미 미와서야 삼점이 잡으셔서 먼저 장하시 컴퓨터를 나로. 바타 유비 미와도 마리바스 아정.
And the reason we're training the mind is to create a habit and eventually to expand or to increase our mind's ability infinitely without limit. So the mind is able to be increased infinitely without limit, and then resulting in becoming a Buddha, right? The enlightenment or awakening. So we have the ability to become a Buddha because the mind itself has no limit. The mind is limitless or infinite. And so this is we think about like these days with technology and computers, there's hard drive storage space of or memory or whatever with different amounts of gigabytes and 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, and petabytes, and it just can get bigger and bigger. And similarly, our mind there's no limit; it can just grow bigger and bigger if we create a habit.
뭐데 제가 말은 지비 친중 잘 쳤네요. 내가 자체 뭐 잡으면 뭐 진짜 땅 나랑 양용세는 먼저 자와 가르쳐 통고도 올라내니 그러와 먼저 제가 사무 총종 제사가 있나 이 동네 망고시 나 지금 동네 망고시 소위 통고 아니 강에 채울까 강에는 동네 제투 한 강에나 강에 홍도 지금 사무 자체 무슨 빼게신 사무 자 가지고 제투나 이 쪽이 동네 용어이 우리 아니 강에 채울까 강에는 동네 제투 그래 그래서 사무 자체 뭐 제가 빼게신
So when we think about our lives, we should never think about just a few gigabytes, but think really in a big way about many gigabytes. And this is because if we think in a limited way or a small way, then a restrictive way, then we'll have more suffering. When we face problems, then we're not able to face those problems. We're not able to, skillfully face those problems or deal with them in a helpful way. And so however, if we think broadly, if we think in an expansive way, then we'll have naturally less suffering and we'll be able to deal with problems and work with them when we face them.
뭐들 그래서 나타만 것도 라베나가 주로이나 가르라는 아주 지우충 아니 지우침보스 좀 다른 거 덴데스는 것도 그가 되면 지우침보는 맛도 제대로 진짜 다 이내야 제가 지우침보 충무 링세디 남샤 가르쳐서는 밑도 추종다 근데 계속 삼루 자체 정도 하고 삼루 순종될 아니 지우 충무스 삼루 자 쟁어들 지우 쟁슬라 삼루 자 첨보 땅 통일될 지우 첨보스라
And in this current text that we're looking at, the Lamrim Chenmo, Great Treatise, then we have these three sections, three major sections, which are the practices for beings with small scope, middling scope, and great scope. And looking at these three types of beings, so we requested Rinpoche to start with the section on being practices for beings of the great scope. And when we talk about these three different types of beings or scopes, it's not in relation to, who's stronger and weaker, people who are stronger and weaker, but in relation to the breadth of thinking of individuals. So how broadly one is able to think.
that you 중문으로 이제 차샤바이나 가르치는 지우 중무스 가르치는 라고레스 라비나 아니 심마 또 된다니 아니 야와 두야 디바파야 아니 진짜게 또 된다니 된게들라 지우 중무스.
So looking at this being of the small scope, why are they called small scope? Why do they have a small scope? Because their main goal, what they're seeking, is the future, is something for the future life. And they're trying to create virtue and abandon non-virtue. There's their main practice.
다 지운 링스랍디 아니 코와 약간 이미스다니 아니 랑이 된데 타바타야죠. 랑이 있지. 타바타야. 근데 털어야 또미 아니 다가 개월도야 디바파야 싫어 공패다야나 소비 다 냠내 가르쳐야 이네요. 아니 코아들 타치도 이미스다니 아니 타바세야지 랑 타바 마temne 디엠도 삼로 또 된된 예비다 강사들 지운 링스.
And then the middling scope is when someone sees the flaws of samsara as a whole, and they then wish to achieve liberation from samsara for their own welfare, or liberation for themselves. And this person, whatever spiritual practices and activities they engage in, accomplishing virtue, abandoning negativities and non-virtue, developing their wisdom, all these practices are coming from the motivation where they see samsara, they just have a clear-minded and single-pointed understanding that it's flawed. Samsara as a whole is flawed, and so they wish to abandon it or achieve liberation from it.
또 근데 주 첨부슬랍디 랑 코알레 타야 핑미로 랑 직신 타야. 근데 손다 타다냐면 심지 탐지기 때 지금 마제벌 지야면도 갈라나 랑이 되어도 신이 되어도 랑 동인 되고 말 신이 되고 동인 민대의 지주 손자 동인 민대의 지주여가 나 신기 아니 신 타야가 이야 상제롱이 받아 아니 지 미모의 제로인 바 동인 메시바인 바 지바인 바 손자 니 타다냐비 심지 탐지기 되는데 아니 저비 상지 공방가 되는 예비 가사들라 주 첨부스고.
And then a great person of great capacity is called such because they see that only if they themselves are liberated from samsara, then it's not sufficient, because they look and see that I'm only one person, I'm a single individual. Other beings are infinite, are limitless. And the truth is, everybody, just like myself, equally desires to be happy and does not desire to suffer. And therefore, it's not okay if I just achieve my own liberation. Instead, I have to achieve the complete and perfect awakening of a Buddha. And then they also can see that there is the potential to become a Buddha, to eliminate all suffering and all afflictions.
이상하고 다 지나면 딱 갈다리야 살데 다 상고디나 지와 니와디디와 또 수바디디 또 다 냠내지 디바도네나.
So then out of these three, then which one seems best? So this is for each person to think about and then practice and see which one's best.
어디서 다 타마디 담나 캡상치야. 그봐. 오늘이다. 안 소소를 지고 신뢰 디지털 툴로스.
잘. 딱 나스 때는 영화에 막 단타부터 나스 때였던 거. 아니 나스 대신 나대 니에요 말. 내가 또 심을 비전도.
So when we think which one we're going to enter out of these three, well, the last of them, that if we choose that, then it has a more we can profit more from that. It has a greater value, and because we're always thinking about I, or me all the time already. We're always holding on to I, but actually there is no I to be found.
어들 제가 담아도 더 드릴까 싶어 안에 지구 전부 걸어도 수야인데 제가 먼저 삼록이 잡중리 먼저 삼록 위에는 삼록 잡중도 뵙게 좀 보시고 먼저 제가 근데 디나로라 추장슬도 람산지 니에요 계산하면서 그 소소도 lö기 좀 받이 갈린 땡땡 당시고 기 동안들
And today we're again looking at this particular text, and it's important before going into it to understand the kind of backdrop and the background of the kind of worldview or thinking behind it. And again, when we are looking at Dharma practice, it's something that we train in. So it takes training, so it doesn't just immediately we don't understand it or kind of come to the meaning and finding out what it's really about right away. It takes training of the mind.
그래서 아주 단단히 럭천도 어디 차샤버리는 그냥 람드를 때문에 용벌와 람드세디 조지 제발 조지기 람드지 일하다 자와 자와 람드지 아니 딱 그걸 차샤버리나 아니 집다고 다지에 아니 람드에 아니 다가나 신기 스미가스 단절권이 단단히 군산람이 샤모 제가 망고였다. 그러면 제일 무슨 제가다 남의 전부다 남의 진 아니 남의 주문라서 남사 망고야. 계산 간다. 네 조용서대다 야간이마. 용대로 싶더라.
This particular kind of tradition of Lam Rim teaching comes originally from the first kind of commentary that was in Tibet, and this category or genre was called the Bodhi Pratipad by Atisha, which is in English the lamp for the path to enlightenment. And based on that, that's what we call the root text, the root text. And then the Lam Rim of by Tsongkhapa that we're studying was written based on that. Within Tibet, then there are many different commentaries on Atisha's Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment. There's a text called The Jewel Ornament of Liberation. There's a text called The Words of My Perfect Teacher. These are all translated in English. And then Tsongkhapa himself has the Great Treatise, Small Treatise, a middle length treatise. And of course, these all come from initially India.
그다음 어디에 망고 총말. 그래서 한번 이제 다 삼로 나오라 다 먼저 그 전도지 그런 여가 있는 telling 죽도 삼로지 telling 죽 때 쉐바지 쉐네 아니 라렌레 케이스 단 줘야 되다 또
There are many texts like over the years that have arisen and been composed. And when we are thinking now about practicing Dharma, there's these steps that we take. So first, we sort of start by engaging with a Dharma text. Then we gain understanding of the Dharma, and then we practice the Dharma.
그래서 단단한 동안들이 람렌도 차샤버리는 주샤 인부스 디베이나 민중 상승 양다게 따오면 되나다. 민디 된다. 뭔가
When in the Islam Rim text, then if we want to say what is the real summary, the main essential point or essence, then we can find three. teachings: the renunciation, then bodhicitta, and then the correct view.
这个比托呢项目本来他的路两面接通了你了吧，不好了，那可是嘛就为呢，临终时的呢，安尼上不到，呀呀，安尼想还是你就想生想这个生上不了害怕，安尼待于他嘞，结巴忙不去，上不忙不当没呢，那南天你嘛就写下我们生那个，的确就透过的。
And if we want to practice if we're able to practice, if we want to do Dharma practice, then it's really excellent if we are able to practice these three as best as we can. So starting with renunciation, developing that, thinking about that, bodhicitta, and then the view by many different avenues of analysis to think about or practice the view, and then sort of in day-to-day practice, day-to-day life. And if we can do what we call a glance meditation or kind of, it's called glance meditation on these, then it's a very good practice.
那别拿了，那临终时来为呢，跨了念不中，跨了你没知道，跨了准得到，但跨是来为呢，那就利用的跨的的，那么呢，实际鸟里面公布的，的东西让人真是么多，不东西让人真么多，可个生了电话已经没了，但一年呀，那俺就开始了呢，当跨了东西了，电话在呢。 안 로망 무슨 아주 저투요 그도 저투요 말 계산 진짜 그 로망 무슨 제가 손자 안 아주 예단녀모 이 사디요 예단녀모 사바나 신기 예단녀모 제부 동네의 용도요.
When we talk about first renunciation, what is that? That is the decision to be liberated. That's the understanding, the view that samsara is flawed and desire to be liberated. When we look at what is the problem with samsara, is that we have these contaminated, appropriated aggregates that have been taken up by us, and they're in the nature of suffering. Aggregates meaning just parts of a human, the different mental and physical parts of a human, and they're in the nature of suffering. And we, however, we have this sort of cognitive state or a cognitive appraisal in our minds that holds the suffering to be happiness, holds different types of suffering to be happiness. So because of that, then we can't just eliminate that right away, all at once. Those minds that are a mistaken cognition, we have to gradually change those. But because we have that, then we accumulate different types of karma or different actions, as well as afflictions. And through accumulating karma and afflictions, then we experience their result, which is suffering.
먼저 공야지마도 이 나로 임불련지 야마래 이제 손자 땅 하나도 메시지에 뭐 코죠 이 고만도랑도다 취칭에는 좀 맞지 텔레파 드버지 먼저 차신도 심바 하장이 심바죠로 이 나에면다 지금 먼저 단디 인지 가서 보슬라면 먼저 제 차디 살롱 정보를 마시바들어 안 되고 소고 소에는 고코디 와 고코리 사고지 동암다 밤에 잊어버렸어 망고시 뭔고지 다 생기나 코위 내단들라 님불내다 자원이는 다 이내야 그 아주 나장시 잠세 주어로 근데지만도困难了만 주는 지 말에서 삼물이 땡을 유여이나 콜 니버 좀 로지알 시다 펜도요 단 니좀 로 공지나 아니 과다다 동의랑 신도 따투나도 푸드 정으로 디마좀은 써 나는 게 삼무 나무라 근데 유여이는 线下嘛我就摸过去的
그럼 낭점 식성성
먼저 동네 딱 지대 거의 내당 줘라. 그 강에 그 지리바도 통바장지 레마도 링이 나는 주네 그 뒤에 말이 님보 매바 레아 삼상도
낭낭사 사막 낭
난 삼상
so then this world within samsara that we live in, we can come to see that it doesn't have any essence to be taken. There's no real nothing really meaningful there that we can take from it. And then yeah, of course there are things we need to sustain our life, right? We have to sustain our life here, but to do so, if we're developing awareness of samsara's flaws and renunciation, we can do so without an extreme amount of clinging or craving, and we can do so by there's a phrase in Tibetan, just by letting things. Well, I guess rough translation, just letting things be. So really, it means just things simply appear, and you're aware of it. You're aware of the way that things appear, and but to do so without really grasping after things, instead just doing what you need to do to sustain your life, and of course make a livelihood, but without really having that extreme grasping or clinging to things. And so then again, you kind of are able, if you can develop an understanding of samsara as suffering, and then in the nature of suffering, then this kind of renunciation will develop.
we are around spend pesa 컴바 첨부 이제 보시면 아무 아사요 아기 있습니다. 아기는 이마치도 로치도 뭐도 간다서 나지 안 컴바 야고에 지우려서 기대로데 라라부터 로드 매버 찾아
So, for example, we might first buy a big, beautiful house, and at first there's such a sense of awe and kind of how great it is. But then after time, then that attitude, we just lose sight of that. Our liking of the house, that attitude just fades away. A sense of the house being nice.
그 따뜻 때문에 영화래. 그 판에 지대 그 주인이 성장 그 가리네 공직 쉬고 때로도 딜레 디지요 빼요. 저는 딜레 잡셔는 차단 뭐 까토는 스스로 가와되는 기회요.
Because our minds are not stable. Our minds are not stable, and so the ways that we try to create happiness are not lasting or stable. But if we are able to reject or overcome the attachment and anger, then our mind will stay happy.
어디 직선. 다 그래서 민족이 로지 삼다야. 대충으로 봤다. 민족으로 매나 산주고 심제도 말. 산주고 심제 말도나 돈이 따와서 받아. 최 남다지 근데 대바천부 최 남다지 도도 말. 대바천부 최 누구 어디 산주고 심도. 산주고 심 요한이 또 단이지다 민족으로서 모두 만들어 요한이.
Without so this thought of renunciation, reflections on renunciation is very important. Without it, we can't develop bodhicitta, and without bodhicitta, we can't have a correct practice of the view, at least not really that fits into the Mahayana. So there's no Mahayana practice, great vehicle practice, without bodhicitta, and that bodhicitta itself depends on having renunciation. Yeah.
그 대바천부 되는 부분에 근데 라니 대바천부 시도 라니 대바천부 주 장주를 생각한 돈이 따라서 줄에 제버려서 좀 내가 친구였다. 아주 그런 교가 대바천부 주인 대바천부 주 대바천부 주인 빙만 라니 대바천부 와서 라니 대바천부 줘야 장주를 쓴다. 이질러서 양내 전 랑줄 제버죠.
Now, if we want to say that I'm practicing the Mahayana Dharma, the Mahayana, Mahayana practices, well, what that really means is that you yourself become the Mahayana. You become a Mahayana person, or then the way to do that. So it doesn't matter whether you say I'm doing Mahayana or not. It's really about you being the Mahayana, having the uh, practices of bodhicitta and great compassion, actually producing those in your mind stream.
오늘 대체 산쪽에서 써야 될까? 맞아. 그래. 센터에 심정이 된체고 된체발라 아니 단단하다 네번이고 이내야 니 아니 전속 파션 쪽을 럽니 아니 니 타다니 심정이 된시 지기 이 제발라 아니 예와 중요시 제발이네 타다니 심정 탐정이 된다 아니 저비 산제 타베지 ran sanje jibu payment shentai was sunje salan gungi inyam lodela dashan simsibo.
So this bodhicitta that we're talking about is to look at all sentient beings who are beyond the limits of space and equal to space, and to be wanting to accomplish their welfare. To see the need to accomplish their welfare, and then going about practicing the six perfections, including generosity and the others, and then any amount of even a small virtue that we do with this attitude that I'm doing this for the welfare of these infinite sentient beings who are equal to space and in number, then the those practices become bodhicitta. Those are part of the bodhicitta practice.
세상을 좀 출내베이너리 맞추 생이너리 세상을 좀 가서는 저 심지어 탐정이 제도 방어 장조에는 이 위급에 심지어 탐정이 제도 주니에서 이 시비급에 심지어 탐정이 제도 아니 시비에서 그런 경제적인 토안에 저는 아주 아주 대박적으로 추차도.
So here, where the students here are listening to Dharma, and Rinpoche is speaking, teaching the Dharma. So if we do these activities with that motivation, that we're doing it for the welfare, to benefit all sentient beings, whether we're listening to Dharma with that motivation, or we should, if we're teaching, then teaching with that motivation, then we are doing the Mahayana Dharma.
오늘 다시 장족이 있음 제야 담당하기 뒤 회사나나 다시 장족이 있음 제주도 마무송 모두고도.
So in this text, there are many different explanations of how to create this or generate this bodhicitta. So we'll be going through and starting with those explanations.
아니 한다고 따와서 한지가 동반이 따와대. 동반이 따와대 때문에 이게 무엇이고.
So then we have the renunciation, the second, the bodhicitta. The third is the correct view. This correct view means the view of emptiness. So this is very important.
동반이 따와도 매나 난be 동반이 따와도 매나 상주기 셈 제야다 안에 대화점도 주연양의 제야 상황을 강의시키고요.
Without this view of emptiness, then it's very difficult to give rise to bodhicitta and to practice Mahayana Dharma. It will create issues for us in our practice if we don't have the view of emptiness.
나 하버드가 좀 하긴 야매 제비급라도 동반이 남사도 매나 저는 메타매 동반이 남자도 매나 하긴 야매 용한 매비지도.
And most especially, in order to practice Tantra without the view of emptiness, then there's really no way we can have an actual practice of Tantra.
세상은 좋다 단다 산지에 요래 미무파 요래서 내가 거투어서 나비는 지금 동반이 남사들 그 뜻이 용 거.
And Rinpoche said just before about the Tantra, like including the practice of deity yoga, those can't come without the view of emptiness. And then he also just now said, so even this basic notion, the idea that Buddhahood is possible, that it's possible to remove all afflictions, that all comes down to understanding emptiness.
그러려면 당장 알아서 마치 생각 상해가 that's something being 마카오도 당연히 마니 마무시라다 마두기 마치 나마 마짜오 치부시 야디오다 도마 이거 하여튼 마드 카와비 생각하신 바로 신도시 그러면 동상지만 나도도 니 삼로나리 이거나 신신 마치 춘이해요 말
And why is that? Well, that's because we're all thinking all the time. We have this thought of I, and that's universal for all of us, all people, all beings. But when we look and ask the question, where is I? Where am I? Then we actually, if we think about it, this is this I that we find to be so important, right? We put so much value on it, but when we go and look for it, and we actually only find that there is an empty gap. So there's actually no I found.
그래서 왔다 이게 나 오토로 미셨으면 다 알아봐 오토로 미시 작과들이 작과들이라는 말로
So, for instance, Rinpoche, his name is Oto Rinpoche. He says, I am Oto Rinpoche. But when he asked, well, is Oto Rinpoche the skin or the flesh? Well, no, right?
오토로 미시 유리도 아빠디
So the flesh here is just the body. The flesh of Rinpoche is a body.
빙스로 보리면 정말 말
So that's Rinpoche's body, but it's not actually Rinpoche, right? Not I, right?
제가 아니 니셈데 나 말아 오토로 미시 셈데 오토로 미시
And then the mind of Oto Rinpoche, that's also not me, right? That's not Oto Rinpoche, right?
오토로 미시 차 보나 가려야 차나 슈 저 언제 저기 상황 오토 말
And likewise, all the different parts within Oto Rinpoche's body, the blood, pus, water, liquid, the heat, none of those are Oto Rinpoche, are they?
이거 먼저 봤을 때 이게 다와 유사만 주만 이거가 그냥 사마 쳔마 내마 로마 안방 남시마 왜냐면 빌레시니 지오가 그 감금 되듯이 안담만 이제 지단지가 한 두시 안담 해서 진짜 갈수록 그러는 어 스파스에 대해 먼저 리디 공부 지금 사마 다 소소소 상담단지 그렇지 뭔가 쇼게 베틱스 제나 빼고 공정 제가 지우 사마를 쓰려고 마랑 사마에서 사디 가르를 쓰려고 류 주체 류 주체의 사 말에 마사마 아요 디스톤가
This is why there's a quote from the Garjuna in the Precious Garland, the Umarinchen Tengwa Ratnavali, where he says, the being is neither earth, nor water, nor fire, nor air. The being is not space, nor is the being consciousness. Thus, since the so because since the being person or being is person the person is not anything, it's not all of this, then what is the person? Then if you look and say, so am I the earth element, the earth? Well, no, that's just the body, that's the heart, the hard matter of the body. But the being is not just the body. If we can meditate on this verse in the morning, or it's very helpful.
려고 달라는 것도 사마리아스라비 홍보디가 샀어. 가잖아. 홍보디 사올을 배셔도 샤디 참아 사이모를 팀도 살아봐 팀도 지상 그 종아 감디 사자도 더 류디 그렇게 되더라.
So when we say the kind of the body is like the earth, well, we think about after our corpse is left and it's buried or left on the earth, it just dissolves into the earth, right? So it's kind of in that has that condition of being like the earth element.
오늘 사마리아스.
So the being is not the earth.
다 추마르스 추도 가서만도 다 도부 나로라 차나 아니 젠바 아니 다춤 방구저라 추고 딘 말로 하는 거지.
And saying that the being is also not water means again just all these different liquid elements within the body. We're not our urine, our blood, our pus, these different liquid elements. That's not what the being is, right?
좀 메스나도 소불로 트여요. 트여지 완전 말아 난 트여 말. 마스 살리지 말이 맞추 아니 타 나가서 말. 맞추 트 내삼신 트여지는 말.
And likewise, this verse says, and the being is not neither also not the heat or fire, but meaning just the heating, the heat within the body, the metabolism, etc., and everything that creates heat within the body. So then this being we cannot say is the earth, nor is the water liquid aspects of the body, nor the heat aspects of the body.
메삼신 말에서
So it's not in the nature of heat, right?
제가 농사다 지당만도 내가 나타나서 우주도 완전히 우리야만 좋았지. 아니 짠 전문만 타도야라 소바 이 잠을 시래로 지난도 우는 완전 알아.
And then we have air. Well, that's our inhalation and exhalation, the breath that comes and goes, comes in and out. And it goes, 그래.
아무나
cell,
짠.
and of course, and then the the different cells, the oxygen entering into our cells and our bloodstream, and it's all because of this, the element of air. But that's not who we are, right? That's not the person is, right?
땅도 남시에 되는 제가 남시에 되는 마마.
And then we also have consciousness, but the consciousness is not me.
딱 가는 뉴스 땅은 된 말도 다 여러 데려가고 주매롱 나가 남시 다 풍부나라고. 이 참아 때 차시에서도 마사지 미도다.
So with all these things, when we see all these different, earth, water, fire, air elements within this body, within this this mass form, then we can't find, looking part by part, something which is I, which is me.
그냥 대체 다는데 챙겨 왔으다. 류도 말해 류다 강산 개화래 그거. 추다 강산 개화래 말아. 로 임바요 말아. 제가 아니 남시에다 강사 남시에들 저거요. 강사 제여 받아 따여 봤을 때 강사 제여 받으라 남시 살고로 따여 봤어야 돼. 공부만 초점 때문에 답이 맞으고. 진짜 된대지마도 그 링이 먼저 유나 마치 시우 자치면 제가 마치 제가 지금 찌니에요. 제가 강 다세디 여버디 나시 유용을 주바시 두베스 럽디 that measures the absolute 동반이
And so what's left other than these different parts that we've gone through, and a person and a body, those things are they're kind of contradictory to each other. Phenomenon and a person. Those are kind of in the Buddhist philosophical context are contradictory things, but so it can't be the body that's the person. Now there could still be a little bit of question left whether the consciousness is the person, and this is something that is debated amongst different Buddhist philosophical systems or schools, and so there's a kind of a set of notion. There's a notion around there being a person who is substantially established, a substantial person, and then a person that is just kind of established through being designated, a designated person, and then a substantial person. And so some will say that, well, there is a substantial person, and the designated person is just the kind of what we call I, designated independence upon the five aggregates. But either way, when we really look deeply from inside and we look for where is the I, what is the I, then we can't find it. And so then what is the conclusion? That the way that the I appears to us or the self appears to us is not existent in the way it appears, not established in the way it appears. So we say the person or the I is something which is merely designated independence. It is not something that is established from its own side. I said everything. So then this is something that we have to train our thinking to become familiar with. Like and it's also important to clarify, when we say this, then it's not that I don't exist. The I is not non-existent. I mean, we're saying that we want to achieve this state where all flaws have been removed and all good qualities have been accomplished. And so the I isn't a non-existent thing, but the sense of an I that is completely independent or not contingent on others, and then that I doesn't exist. And likewise, all phenomena are similarly things which are merely kind of they are mere appearances, things which are merely apparent. there's a verse that is often cited which says that the munis, which is another word for Buddha, the muni cannot wash away negativities with water, nor can he clear away the suffering of beings with his hands, nor can he transfer his realizations to others, but he liberates beings by teaching the truth. So the first line of this verse says the Muni cannot wash away negativity, so he can't just clear it away like washing something, and he can't, kind of put his hand on someone's head and bless them to remove their suffering. And he can't also even take his own realizations from within his mind and put them into someone else's mind or transfer them. But what he can do then is teach about reality, which is emptiness, teach the path to realizing emptiness, the contingent and emergent nature of things, or sometimes called the pratitya samutpat, Sanskrit word. So that's the way in which the causes of suffering, the afflictions, will be removed by us following this path. And there is no other path but this, to remove suffering.
원시도 때문에 좀 안에 이제가 기시는 이제 직제로
So this is what we want to try and practice this. And there's not too much time left.
이제 땅부터 시작을 되는지 이제 라마다 투지 전부터 된다 남지 셔라 그비 상세로스다 이제 라마다 투지 전부터 된다 남지 셔라 그비 상세로스 제로 무슨 라마 제린다 와다 니다 넘버로 제린다 와 아니 사이 넘버로 좀 잠비하는 소리가 그거 친구团 상수 지금 좀
So we'll just start the text for today. And the first line says, "Respectfully, I bow down at the feet of those excellent and revered persons who have great compassion." So this is Tsongkhapa, Je Rinpoche. He's making this homage to his teachers, his lamas, and that includes the lamas in the form of humans, for instance, Jetsun Rendawa, one of the teachers of Tsongkhapa, as well as the lamas who are in the form of deities, enlightened beings. So beings like Manjushri. He's making a verse of homage to respect and homage.
오늘 대단한 쿠비 님이 곧 나서오는데 이들이 공발레 디바 탐정 멤버를 모두 통계해서 녀모와도 돈이 쉐어시 타발라 한 탐들지 이꾼네는 고마티 람타바 정도 줬으면 럼이 퀄리티를 타바 탑지 그냥 토리지 왜 달바도 봐야 마이메 왜전 준세버는 근데 타바 쇼리와 이미 장이 된 마도와발라 대인 진이 신지 된 니체로 세체 타 산진지 지 고유 대체된 누구비나 로다 대만남지 진에 토마네 아니 대버점으로 좀 다시 되는 하신기가 다 니트는도 나가로 송고스나 비나 직참아 인지강을 열어
Really?
송산나
So I'll just read what Rinpoche read in the Tibetan. Actually, why don't someone else can maybe read? We can read together. Does anyone want to?
찍어 홍다
Does everybody see? If does anyone want to read? Okay.
Existence, various perspectives, you'll see all of cyclic existence at the pit of waste and fire. And you will be completely consumed with the desire to attain liberation, elimination of suffering, and the afflictions. If you learn the path of the three precious trainings, you will attain liberation, which is free of cyclic existence, and indeed reversible, unlike the glory of high status within the cyclic existence. However, your elimination of faults and attainment of good qualities will be incomplete. Thus, you will not have accomplished your own aims and can only accomplish the purposes of others in a limited way. Eventually, a Buddha works with you. You will have to enter Mahayana. Because of this, intelligent persons should enter the Mahayana from the beginning.
Thank you.
사실은 이 전화가서 쓰려면 제대로 아니 쿠미님이 꽃나촌에서보다 쿠미님께도 쿠미님이 와서다 고아치다 지다기 님이 쓰라고 단치당 고아치다 지다기 님이 쓰라비 레명체 아니 다 하버도 가지고 도와면 제가 나시기 때문에 안 들고 저기 때문에 근데 도와라랑 야마도 니든지요 그래서 계속 싸움당하고 당한 좀 도와 민도지를 찾아오이나 안 제비 동네요 아니 예비 동네요 나위 동네요 치위 동네요 제가 나시고 안다 동이 제암 아니 동이 숨 전한지 뉴나 숨가 주위 동이 주위 동이 잡아두시죠 그래서 다 된제 동이 망고시 다준 상도 당한 좀 리트로 그 동이 망고시 다 된저로 싸움다 신주진 우리는 이야 아주 센파 강연하는 주야네 무슨 그냥 아주 장신을 더와 완전 미 지와도 치와도 저 장신 지와 장신상의 말이지다 그 레뉴 대마 게 레뉴 비제서도 이 동에 참아야 되는 건데
So when we talk about this samsara here, it says after such extended meditation on the faults of cyclic existence. So this is I've been saying samsara. The text here is using the English of cyclic existence, means the same thing. Then there are different types of faults or problems that are identified with this cyclic existence, and we develop a habit or like a meditation, right, thinking about these. So we generally speak about the kind of universal flaws of cyclic existence that are found throughout any realm or existence within cyclic existence, and then those that are particular to a specific type of being or existence. So the flaws, of course, come down to the karma and afflictions, and the karma and afflictions are what kind of create some sufferings within samsara, and then within these different types of suffering that we can analyze and think about, there's the suffering of birth, aging, sickness, and death. And then there are various types of sufferings that the animals experience and different sufferings for different classes of beings. When we look at human beings, then that's primarily what we're thinking about, right? Suffering we experience through birth, through getting old, through getting sick, and then death. And then there are also different listings of different ways of looking at suffering or types of suffering. There is a list of 8 sufferings, and then they're all condensed into 3 suffering. The primary category is 3 sufferings. That's the suffering of suffering, suffering of change, and then what's called the pervasive conditioned suffering. And so these are things which, we have, all of these. These are all part of us. That all these flaws are here with us of samsara, and so when we actually think about it carefully, though, generally people say, well, birth, death, aging, sickness, those are just part of our nature. But if we think about it carefully, they're not actually part of our nature, not really part of nature, because they are things that only are created by karma and afflictions. They're not actually within our nature, but they're caused by karma and afflictions.
세상은 그가 뭐 자체 공부된 능력을 상속해서
So we have the kind of we're qualified by suffering, and almost you can say like full suffering, because we have these contaminated aggregates.
상상상상은 아주 망제 유리어로 시대다 망제
When
류디 맞았어. 류디라고 컬러 요거 그거 류디 다는 지금 팔았어. 아니 류지로 하시는 컴퍼니고요. 류 파스 강의 마트에서 모르는 아주 류요거를 쓰다. 류디만이 류디 차트는 차도 미어로 저저는 사전은 차도 미는 류디 전 내용으로 아주 류요이 상상 류요 소리 자들 아니 류를 가서 진짜 쉬우대요다. 아, 아주 류요 소리 있어 상대가.
so when you think about it, it's actually like we are the slave of our own body. When you really look at what we have to do to keep our body happy, we have to eat so that we eat full, and we have to, you know, take our body here and there. So we need a car. We need to get all these different objects to make our body pleased. And if we are too cold, then we suffer from the suffering of being cold. If it gets warmer, we suffering of being too hot. Then we have to get all these different things to adorn our bodies, make us look nice, jewelry and so on. So it really, when you step back and look at it, it's as if we're the slave of our body.
류요을 중에서 류야구 차려진 류그 둘이 많이 왔네.
Even if we, work hard to, enslave ourselves to our body, try to serve our body, it's like a servant, then it's not like it gets better over time. Just day by day, it just gets worse and worse and worse. The condition of our body grows, worse and worse.
특별히 가족 아버지는 야드라이브가
So no matter how nice we are, how gentle we are with our body, it doesn't actually get any better.
세상 어쨌든 내 예우동의 시가가 예우동에는 뒤송으로 세상 예바데 베티지 찬로 완전 주가 쉬우도를 써야 되거든. 이지지니 그 동네에 레티죠. 이게도요. 세상 달로 주진레온도 안에 빼먹나요. 신이 단 천하시어로 받아 예우 무슨 동네 용걸 봐. 따뜻히 토자부터 니마치릴레는 템바 돌아야 된대요. 이네 진짜 가마치에서 그 레디가 당안 들어도 시부竞争 제재 리딩지 진짜 그좀 재미로 진짜 이제 두두를 말이야 영화에 말이야.
And this is what we mean when we talk about the suffering of aging, suffering of growing old. And it's something which occurs every moment throughout our lives. It's happening momentarily, moment by moment. But then eventually, say we get into, our 60s, then really the feeling of being old really starts to come. The feeling of aging really starts to show up strongly. And, the knees hurt and the different parts of our body degenerate more obviously. And if we really were experiencing all this suffering that comes through aging, if it all just kind of happened in one moment and we were just kind of sudden, if it, all these changes, they just all of a sudden, one moment happened, it would cause us to black out. We'd be so overwhelmed, we couldn't handle it. But because they are continuous over time, then there's just this constant change that's happening.
그래서 당한저 가르치고 들었으려면 싸움 가도 가면 생부터 줄자로 미리 욕시란 말이죠. 나 생부터 욕을 생부터 욕을 생이야제 따위는 그 쉬우다요. 단다 류량을 저기 벤조단 류토를 도송단 류토는 벤조선 쉬지에 노다. 그 류고고 니가 벤조단 류고 류매가 요아이마. 다 싸움은 이 요구가 생리 소주되어 생리제 다톤 갈래장 배전제가 된된 분대요 리제리 생이야제 슈브라이.
And so when we think about all this, we can see that our body there's no, over time, there's no real improvement of the body. So then what we should think about, what makes more sense when we think about it, is to actually serve our mind, to become a servant or slave of our mind, trying to improve our mind. And because there's no limit to that, we can actually achieve some result, some positive result if we work to improve our minds. Of course, the body is here with us, right? Temporarily, we have this body. We're not going to do away with it. So yes, we do need to pay attention and take care of it, but to really kind of in this way enslave ourselves to our body doesn't make sense because it's just going to grow old, not get any better anyway. But the mind, we have potential to change how we think, to transform our thinking, and then we will actually for sure have a positive result from that.
세상으로 대체 뒷장보는 제 걸로는 만들어가 막 의미가 취자 미상의 취자 소리지 예전에 좀 ਦੱ어 하고 저거 약발 취자 소리지 취자스나 보라 소라 짐바당 저바당 팔아서 취자 소리 들리자 안직 생이 된지야다 오늘 전에 삼로 이해받이 미 남주 배주지 마다나 아니 디 미장 취자의 직발에서
투자는 두강자고.
중앙 말에 줘서 더다 진짜 더다 덤블링 소다 잘라서 살려고 니
알려.
더던 템버 디나시만 주 수보디
알려.
미디 아니
Good so His Holiness the Dalai Lama often says that our body is like a factory of waste. Took me a second to understand it. Okay. It's like a factory of just making waste, and so this is so then we shouldn't spend so much time trying to perfect it or look after it, but to think about our mind instead and look after our mind instead.
그래서 가라디스 아니 디그 니가 가왔다는 직다 아니 추디마 짐바나요 안 칼라디 맞서가나요 그 주제 디데지마도 내는 처음도 왔어 대장한 미 사무주요 사무디 표시단 아니 야 무슨 나고를 송하러 왔어
So
이 친구도
we eat food, and then that food turns into feces and urine, and then just comes out of us. So it's like we're just a waste making machine. And so then to really use our minds to kind of improve our own thinking, our own mind makes much more sense, more valuable.
좀 미송자가 승진 신발이 잡아도 봐봐죠. 가리 어렸을 때 미우제 말에 제바치야로 이제 딱 들러서 봐도 진짜 로디 미도아. 그래서 먼저 밀라. 아니 이론 제야죠. 이도 디야. 이 디토네 랑샤 디토샤 이 상도 이제 쉐로도 컴페탄 패키지 뭐 수수 되지 뭐 셴레 되지 전투로
So as human beings have a special capacity for thinking that other animals do not have, right? So we're able to take a look at things and really make an analysis and examine things and see, okay, this is true, that's not true, this, that's real, that's not. We're able to, we have this ability. So that's really where we get the capacity to create genuine happiness as a human being. So that's the explanation for now. And if there are questions, then we can have questions.
You just clarify one thing. At the beginning, we were talking about the beings of three capacities, and the explanation sounded more like it was our intention determine whether we were a being of small, medium, or great capacity, as opposed to our realization. Like I was thinking of being of great capacity as someone who's already achieved all the things of small capacity and medium capacity, so they already have the realization of emptiness for personal liberation. But it sounded like at the beginning, it was almost just more like our view, that we have a view of the Mahayana as our, truth, and that is where we're seeking. And that kind of makes us a being of great capacity, as opposed to having the realizations to get you to that point.
죄송합니다. 근데 아니 계부 숨긴 남샤라야디 저동네 아니 소서 계부 중등 참보 가연 뭐 노zem발라 소서 똑거든 투네 섬었던 거래마 또 리머치기 순탄 난신 지 섬었던 딜 거디라 손사 소서 더버제니 nga 계부 중고 주도에 계부 중고는 냠len 주도에 쟁냠 len judo years chezang double gone shower be jama so gula topoke keep it going shop for this.
다들 지단 쇼진의 참아 가서 진의 참아 달리 신스 근데 돈나요 도알레는 주제다 아니 상주 선발로 된 진의 참아 달리 신스 야 사실 책임이 레다 물론 아니 지금 전부다 된대가 토니 계시오도 아니 류기 바쁘다 미니 주마 좋아라서 된대가 토니 코 장신기고 그 책임이 레다 물론 게 지우 전부나가 쳐줘야 된대요다 다이나 저 최소의 가르라는 소소기 싸움이 나라. 니들 제 투사를 니들 제행해서 싸움을 판 주게 될 거야.
So there are, there's a quote from the sutra that's often cited in relation to kind of how to determine, how to see if somebody is a bodhisattva. So just like when you see, there's some kind of waterfowl, I forget the name, but it's a part of the quote. You see this waterfowl, and then there's water nearby, this kind of thing. So when you see a being who they have tears from their eyes and they get goosebumps just from hearing about the Mahayana or bodhicitta, then like that's a bodhisattva. So Rinpoche is using that just to point out that there are people who they just hear the word Mahayana or bodhicitta and then they immediately kind of have this incredibly strong feeling. So that's one case from imprints from a past life. But then there's also it really when you're to answer the question, it's about looking at those three different types of beings and their practices and then saying, well, do I think I can do it? And asking yourself, do I think I can do this? And then deciding that you want to try to practice that.
I have a question about the conditions for developing bodhicitta, some of like the preliminaries. And this discusses abandoning cyclic existence. And I'm wondering with respect to the three that you named, renunciation, bodhicitta, and the view, does it require an understanding of the suffering of cyclical existence, or does it also require its abandonment? Right? Does one have to understand, right, the suffering of this life, or does one actually have to develop true renunciation in order to generate bodhicitta?
But you're asking true renunciation, but are you saying actually abandon samsara?
Yeah,
because that's different though
than renunciation.
Yeah,
renunciation doesn't have to be renouncing samsara.
Well, abandon here. Oh, I'm sorry. You're just using the word abandon differently, I think. You don't mean that they've overcome samsara.
Correct.
Just that
correct.
they. Okay.
Right.
The idea, the desire.
Yeah.
So you're saying, do they just have to understand suffering or actually have renunciation?
Right.
죄송해요. 장주기 쌤기 규소 데라 베나 남순 갑수 담보 니중기 삼바 장주기 쌤 남다베다. 데 니중기 삼바디 장주기 쌤 문도 도그레스. 에냥 니중기 삼바 센텐스나 주마 멤버스나 직 ngoma gore be semena dungyo ki go sam yona di sare be janju ki sam pure ke ba
안주 섬줄라 제분이나 인정을 친성을 캡다 페이지 베르세메바 그래서 인정다 진저 뭐도 막상 상주 섬제 투마 가서 상주 섬제도 장 야어던 신 타지도 신이 제대로 호화당이 좀 가리 있는 들 좀 맛이 맞도 다다마 민주 친성을 제비 캡스라 있다 상주의 섬이나.
So if you to really develop bodhicitta in your mind stream, then it necessarily is preceded by renunciation. You can't truly generate bodhicitta without renunciation. And so part of that reason is because you have to be able to see all of samsara as being flawed completely, and then seeing only desiring to be of welfare to other beings and no interest in your own welfare.
Wasn't it by glancing meditation?
Shargom via the Dudakare, like Shargom.
Shargom Slavina. Shargom Slavina are shiny. That's all Lamdo Shasha in a Takudo Shasha. Chimas a Samlona, Punting. Shargom Slavina. That's what Shishuyata Shargom teaches in this Lambre Shargom just loved it. That and it lamp. Can you 디 신이 된 수네 전에 물려 손중 받도 림바 상동 당시 고면들 샤고 있다. 딱 특고뒤 제샤바이나 어다 초랑이제라 가래. 람제나 초랑제 그도와 초랑제라 고람제 토람 만도 조람제 조람제라 토람제 토람제라 고람제 고람제라 물랑제 근데 그 상무 림바 고면들 샤고 있다. 샤고 있어.
So the Tibetan word is shargom or glance, we call it glance meditation sometimes, and this means like it depends on what you're meditating on. You could be meditating on the form of a deity, and then there's the glance meditation for that. But in Lam Rim glance meditation, it means to have like the set of the entire kind of meditative practices that are taught in the Lam Rim, a set of reflections, and kind of put them in order and cycle through in order. So starting from relying on the spiritual mentor, how to rely on a virtuous friend or spiritual mentor, and then going down all the way up to achieving the path of no more learning. The um, So if you think about it in relation to the five paths, first you achieve the path of accumulation, then the path of preparation, the path of seeing, the path of meditation, and the path of no more learning. Five paths. So it would be kind of cycling through stage by stage in a single meditation session.
네.
Okay. 뭐는
네. 저는 봤을 때 남의 물론 주소.
되게
일기간
예. 잠깐만. 예.
저도 네 일기간 주소 남의 물론 주소.
또.
아니요.
Okay, we can recite this dedication prayer from the Lam Rim. I'll just screen share it. My, see it there. My two collections, vast as space, that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose mind's wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of complete graded paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may I expose this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time, by even this graded course to enlightenment, completed due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes an effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere.
네 탐지에서 봐요. 언어도 대단들 내가다 나다 지레라를 예수에서들 도와로 방금
Correlation Pendantewa Mother, Jungway, Nature, Zing, Wanton, Zing, Gatso,
Amazing to go to thank you in the mountain and then you may come.
You can offer the You hold it out like open. Yeah. Yeah, you start, I think everybody else probably knows how to do it, but open the kata all the way and kind of hold it. And if anybody wants to make an offering, there's envelopes just on the table in the next room, and that's a proper thing to do. What? So maybe the best way maybe is if you, in general, like offering to four the wisdom, we'll make, we'll take everything and then make a big offering at the end.
Yeah.
But if you want to just do a personal one to Rinpoche also, you can. But
Okay.
we'll make an offering to their center and everything
They
as
made
forest
one
of wisdom.
last weekend.
Yeah, well, that's great too. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Some people just like to do it directly to the teacher,
Gotcha.
but we'll do it as a group kind of at the end of the session. Yeah.